Hey, Joe Barton here with Barton Webinar, and you're in for a treat. So today we talked about leaky gut syndrome and type 2 diabetes. Dr. Saunders answered a lot of great questions. So just setting you up for that right now. Stay tuned, enjoy, engage. And if you want to join us live next time, just go to bartonwebinar.com and click on the register button and enter your details, and we'll set you up and notify you for the next live one, which is every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time. I have a sneeze coming on, but I think I'm going to be okay. Okay, anyways, so enjoy this webinar, talk about leaky gut, but we get into all sorts of other things, fasting, bone broth cleanse, and vaccines. Actually, that's what we just started at the very beginning, was all the vaccine recalls and stuff like that. So stuff that you'll want to be informed about, and how you can, something that you can take to work to help with the blood clot issues, which Dr. Saunders recommends if you've gotten the vaccine. So anyways, a lot of good stuff. Excited for you to join us and to watch this. And if you have any questions, you can get them answered on bartonwebinar.com if you register through the Zoom link for next time. And if you can also ask questions in the comments on this YouTube channel as well while you're here, and we will save them up for next time. So this is episode number 86 of the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. Enjoy. Today, welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. I'm your host, Joe Barton. How are you today? I'm wearing my hockey shirt. This is my Playmaker shirt. Actually, this is my Waymaker shirt from one of my favorite songs, Waymaker, Miracle Worker, Promise Keeper. But I like to call it my hockey shirt because I won a Playmaker award last season, which is for the guy that, has the most assists. But then I have that song going through my head, and so it's like Playmaker, Miracle Worker. Really, I'm not very good at hockey, but I just thought I guess you have to just be in my head to laugh about that. So anyways, sorry, everyone. Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. We are going to cover leaky gut and type 2 diabetes today. So this is a very interesting topic. Before we hand it over to Dr. Saunders, first of all, Leslie, looking fantastic today. I like the new hair. Like, it's rare for men to often recognize, changes in hair. My wife and others often comment about that. Dr. Saunders, I got to hand it to you. First thing you noticed when you hopped on today.
Oh, that's kind of funny because my wife has to say, "Did you notice my hair?"
Right.
This is dramatic, though. Those of you who've been on the webinar know that I have had short hair, but it's funny, if you look back at my profile pictures on social media over the years, I've had black hair, brown hair, pink hair, short hair, long hair, curly hair, straight hair. So it's really just another day in the Prince household here. So, but this is probably the first time a lot of you have seen it long. So, and it'll probably be short next week. You never know.
Well, we like it. So very good. And so thanks everybody for joining us live on the Zoom here. We are here to help you answer your questions as it relates to type 2 or anything that has to do with the Diabetes Solution Kit, which is right here. And so hopefully you've already got a copy of this. This is the handbook, the guide that we talk about that helps people to reverse type 2. And the main program that we talk about, that Dr. Saunders talks about, is cutting those carbohydrates to 20 grams or less per day until your blood sugar numbers come back down to normal. And then you get to go to phase 2. And we'll get into that later. Anyways, if you are joining us on YouTube and you want to join us live next time, go to bartonwebinar.com and register. And then we'll send you an email with the link so you can hop on Zoom here and get your own questions answered. So, all right, without further ado, Leslie, have I missed anything else before we hand it off to the good doctor?
I don't think so. Other than let's do a quick disclaimer.
Yes, that would be fantastic. Dr. Saunders, I love your disclaimers. So go ahead and do that.
Okay. So when I talk about things, I'm giving general knowledge, general information that will apply to a group of people. And I'm trying to make it as general as possible. Even when you ask specific questions, I may talk about your specific thing, but really what I want to do is so that people understand the concept. So be careful with this, because you have to determine if this specific bit of information applies to you or not. So you may need to work with your healthcare provider and find out if that's the right thing for you, because it may not be, because it's not, because there isn't a one size fits all for everyone.
Yes, we disclaim all liability that you may try to put on us for anything that
is that what I just said?
You may or may not do. So we started off, we were talking about vaccines and the different problems with them right now. And so,
oh goodness, it's a mess out there. You know, if you've gotten your vaccine, then it's like, one thing I would do if you've already gotten your vaccine, take a lot of vitamin C, because that gets rid of the inflammation that gets into the blood vessels. But I've also had a couple of my patients who've taken the vaccine get on Natto Kinase. Natto Kinase is something that dissolves clots in the blood vessels. And so Natto Kinase is a good one. And then fish oil. Fish oil is something that prevents clotting. And so, they're recalling the vaccines now. This is what happened, with the swine flu epidemic, when President, was it Ford, required everyone over 65 to get the vaccine. It was a mandatory vaccine. And then people started getting all these problems. They go, darn, it's not working. They pulled it off the market. And then my grandma was left with Guillain-Barré syndrome for life. She was, miserable for her whole life because of that vaccine. Wow. So, you got to be careful. I just got to be careful.
Yeah.
Especially with these untested vaccines, they've never been tested. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You might grow a third arm or something. Get all weird.
Interesting times we're living in, for sure. Well, you've talked about, the flu shot every year and the risk for severe neurological disorder that is irreversible, right? Is not worth the risk. Typically, a reason why you don't get it. Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't take the risk. Clearly, the risks outweigh the benefits. And so the doctors often look at it, because the drug companies are telling the doctors, well, there's all these benefits and there's risks are like negligible. So when somebody asks their doctor, well, before you give me the shot, what are the risks? Well, it's negligible. But it's not, the benefit, the risk compared to the benefits are actually much greater. So,
all right. Well, let's get into leaky gut syndrome. So that is, I don't think we've covered that before, but it's becoming more common. So let's talk about it. Tell us what it is first.
Okay, exactly. That is the key issue. All of education starts out with one basic thing, and that is defining the terms, just definitions. What is it? So that we're talking about the same things. If we're talking about a vaccine, we have to know, I know what a vaccine is. But with these new ones, they're called vaccines, and they're not really vaccines. They're really DNA therapy, genetic therapy. They're really actually medical instruments. So what is leaky gut? A lot of doctors, if you go to your doctor and say, I think I have leaky gut, they'll go, leaky gut, what's that? And you say, oh, no, intestinal permeability. What is that? And the doctor won't have any clue as to what that is, because it's not a medical term. So, but is there then a such thing as leaky gut? Oh, yeah, just because it's not a medical term doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist in the repertoire of the medical doctor. So leaky gut's a real thing. When you have to think of the inside of your intestines as outside your body. it's not inside your body, it's actually outside. You think of your body like a tube, and so or like a pipe. Your body is the metal of the pipe, and then your intestines are the hole on the inside, and then your skin is on the outside. And that's really important because your skin has 100 to hundreds to thousands of cells thick that are protecting you. So you can't like scratch it, and you can't like make it bleed or anything, or you can't get inside your body without getting through all these layers of skin, right? Well, on the inside of that tube, there's only one cell layer, one. So you, whatever you put inside, well, whatever you put down your intestines is technically outside your body, is it has a layer of skin to prevent it from getting into your blood, but there's only one cell layer, just one. So if one of those is missing, then you have a hole, right? And then if you have a bunch of them missing, then you have a bunch of holes. Well, why is that bad? Well, what if you scratched up your skin and had holes all over? And you were putting like food stuff like bacteria and all that stuff all over your body, and you had holes in your skin all over the place. Well, you would get stuff into your blood and you get infections. That's exactly intestinal permeability. You're getting stuff it's going through the lining of your intestines and getting into your blood, and it causes problems. Like what? Well, like reactions, like you have these immune reactions just the same way you would on your skin. If you put like poop on your skin and it's got a bunch of skin missing, then what's going to happen? Well, you get infections, you get a reaction, it's red, hot, swollen, tender. And that's what happens in your intestines too. Reactions happen. So if you don't have a good lining of your intestines that's protecting your cells or your blood on the inside, then you get these immune reactions. So that's the first part. The second part is that let's say you have leaky gut, and there's something inside your intestines that's like vitamin B12. Ooh, I need that. So the cell actually can hold on to it, pull it into the blood, and guess what? It can leak right back out. So it works both ways. Leaky means leaky both ways. Number one, bad stuff is leaking into your blood, and number two, good stuff is leaking out into the intestines. So leaky gut is not a good thing, as you can imagine. It's really detrimental to your nutritional status and how your intestines function, and inflammation, and all of those problems that can be associated with irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel diseases. So your body can ward off these things. So, for example, a lot of toxins that leak into your body, they end up going to the liver, and the liver can get rid of them pretty quickly. The liver's a pretty good filter for that. But still, ideally, you want to have a good, solid layer that's protecting you so that you don't get things into your blood, or you don't leak things out into your intestines. Why does that happen? Why do people get leaky gut in the first place? Well, there's a lot of different reasons. If anybody's ever heard of lectins, lectins are the sort of like the immune system of plants against animals. And so when you eat lectins, which are found on fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds especially, and beans, beans are really high in lectins. What they do is they go into your intestines and they bind onto the cells, and they prevent the cells from reproducing. So if you lose a cell, if you lose one cell, then a cell next to it will reproduce, and then it'll fill in the gap. But if you have a lot of lectins on there, it doesn't fill in the gap, so you get more leaky gut. And so that can be a problem. So what you eat can be a problem. And there's even people out there saying that you should never eat anything with lectins on it. And that's not true at all. You know, if you were to eat a handful of like red beans raw, you could die. It's that toxic. But if you soak them, pour off the water and cook them, especially if you pressure cook them, those lectins are broken down. And so then it's a minor issue and they're mostly broken down. And then lectins are also signaling what you're supposed to be, the way your body's supposed to digest food. So lectins aren't, yes, they're toxic, but they're also signals in small amounts. So they're good for you in a certain way, as signaling, not as nutrient specifically. So that's one. Another one is if you had like celiac disease. So if you're sensitive to wheat, gluten, or gliadin, those sensitivities, food sensitivities, can cause your intestines to get inflammation. And when there's inflammation, remember, there's only one cell layer. It's not like you have skin like hundreds of layers. It's only one. So just a little bit of inflammation can break up that one cell layer and cause more leaky gut. And inflammation can happen for a lot of other reasons too. Food sensitivities is one, but infections, if you have bad bacteria, if you have yeast, if you have parasites, and you know, we're often told in medical school that parasites are very uncommon in the United States. And so don't even look for them, don't even bother. But you know, with people traveling around a lot, parasites, yes, they're less common than in places where they don't treat water, but we still have a lot of parasites. I've seen plenty of cases of parasites. So for all of the infectious diseases and all the reactions, those lead to leaky gut. And so then the next step is, if you have leaky gut, how do you know you have leaky gut? Well, it's not that easy. If you have inflammation in your intestines, if you have chronic problems like irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, you can kind of assume you probably have leaky gut. We don't know for sure. You can test for it. There's IgG tests. And now there's a lot of different types of tests. And these are IgG tests that look for antibodies against food. If you have antibodies against food, there's only one way that food could have antibodies, and that is it got into your blood, because you don't make antibodies unless it gets into your blood. So how does it get into your blood? Well, unless you're poking it through your skin or getting shots with it, the only other way is through your intestines, because you have leaky gut. So I test people that I suspect have leaky gut. And I do the IgG test for it's like 100 different foods. And if they look at that list and say, gosh, I'm allergic to everything I eat. I'm like, no, you have IgG antibodies against everything you eat. That means you have leaky gut. That's really what it's about. They're not food allergies. They are sensitivities, but not allergies. And because now you've been sensitized in your immune system against them. So you can test for it. You can assume you have it if you have any kind of intestinal problems. And that's not a bad assumption, because it's fairly common. So then the next step is, what do you do for it? Leaky gut is really, really, really easy to repair. All you have to do is nothing. If you stop eating, then it will repair. That's how the gut repairs, by not eating. So everything we were told in medical school, have 5 small meals a day with snacks in between, so you never have an empty stomach. That's the worst advice you can give to a human being. I don't know. That's worse than jumping off a cliff. I could give that advice. That's worse than advising people to get the COVID-19 shot. That's where there is no worse advice you can give than to tell people to eat 5 small meals a day with snacks in between so you never have an empty stomach. Why? Because you never fix anything. You never fix your intestines. You never fix your stomach. You're not going to digest your food properly. You're not going to get good nutrition. You're not going to repair your body. You're not going to repair your brain. You're going to get Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, diabetes. Every chronic disease we have is due to that advice. 5 small meals a day with snacks in between. Don't ever do that. The best thing you can do then, on the other hand, is to have an empty stomach, because every time you have an empty stomach, you start repairing, fixing, improving the digestion and absorption. You reset the whole system. You reset your adrenal glands and make your adrenal glands function right. You make your brain function right. And you reset your stomach so you make good acids, so you digest your food properly, so that you don't have lectins going down into your small intestine and creating leaky gut. Everything good happens when your stomach is empty. So the key is to have an empty stomach. How do you do that? Well, you can do our 610 reset program in Barton Publishing. We have it on Facebook. It's a group, and what it is, you stop eating at 6 and you go to bed by 10. And that is a reset, because it resets your adrenal system and keeps your circadian rhythm going properly, so you get something called anabolic mode. Anabolic mode is when you're building your muscles, you're building your brain, you're rebuilding all your joints, and you're repairing your stomach and intestines. So all of that happens with the reset, with the 610 reset. The other thing to do is to avoid snacks at all. Just have a meal, nothing, have 5 hours between meals, so that you then reset your stomach acid and digestive enzymes and everything, so you can digest your food properly, so that you don't get food sensitivities and leaky gut and all those other issues. So ideally, 2 meals a day with no snacks in between. That's actually the best way to go.
And snacks are to include any type of drink as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Basically anything with flavors or calories. Yeah. So plain water would be okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how common is leaky gut syndrome? And
yeah. Well, since doctors don't have a definition for leaky gut, since it's not in the medical literature, there isn't a lot of research being done on it, but there is a little research here and there, and it's actually fairly common in terms of if you have intestinal problems, you probably have leaky gut.
Okay. All right. And what's the connection to type 2?
Oh, thank you. I forgot about that. Okay. So when you're eating frequently and not digesting your food very well, it's very easy to raise your insulin levels and cause you to put on weight. So there is an indirect correlation, leaky gut, because of the frequency of eating more than anything. It's common to have leaky gut, and also to have type 2 diabetes. So it's not that one causes the other, they're associated because they come from the same problem. One of them is these high insulin levels from that bring on insulin resistance, and that's type 2. The other is having this constant amount of food causing the gaps in the cells, the lining of the intestines.
All right. Yeah. Very interesting. So lately we've been running out of time to answer questions, so I think we should get right into some questions here.
Let's do it. Let's do the questions.
All right, Leslie.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, does the 610 reset time change with time changes?
Like if you're traveling or daylight savings time?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. The answer is yes. Yeah, here's the funny thing. So if you, because the NASA did a whole bunch of research on this, on jet lag, and for the space station, because in the space station they don't have sunrise sunset. How do you have a circadian rhythm on it in space, right? Because there's no time changes. There's no time. So at least no sun to mark it. So they looked at this, and if you go to a different time zone, let's say if I were to fly to Europe, which is about 10 hours difference, then within 10 days, I will be on that time, on European time. And so, yeah, it does change. Your circadian rhythm changes for your location. And you don't have specific control over that. In other words, you can't say, well, I'm going to go to China and I'm going to work nights in China, because within 12 hours, I'm going to be on their time, and then I won't have the anabolic mode after a couple of weeks in China. So it does change. It changes with your time zone.
Okay, and another question in relation to the 6-10 reset. What if every time you try to go to bed at 10, you wake up around 3 a.m. and you can't go back to sleep until around 7 a.m. and then you wake up around 1 to 3 p.m.?
You know, that's funny, because that's a real issue. That's not, and it's not that uncommon either. In fact, as some research was being done recently on sleep, and they went through a lot of old writings, journals, people were writing about just things, and inadvertently would talk about the first sleep and the second sleep, because it was very common for people to go to bed when the sun went down at 7, 8, 9, whatever, and so they would go to bed when it got dark, and they would wake up at midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they would be up for a few hours, 3 hours, and so they had the first sleep, and then up for a few hours, and then the second sleep. And the second sleep would be a few hours too. So overall, they would have, that many hours of sleep. But so here's the point: is that 10 to 2 sleep, or in his case, 10 to 3, that's when you get your deep sleep. That's the restorative sleep. That's the one you want. The rest of the time is REM sleep, which you can do in intermittent or shorter spurts, like take naps or whatever. But it's not like it was common all the time for people to sleep, 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours straight through. It actually was quite common to wake up in the middle of the night and have some time.
So nice. Do you recommend, like, if they are waking up at 3 a.m., should they just get up and go, like, do something active and then maybe, That's what people used to do. That's when the farmer's daughter got pregnant, and that's when the chickens got stolen, and that's when, people would actually get up and do mischief in the middle of the night. Well, that's where the stories came from, right? The witching hour.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I've had that happen to me for a little bit of time, and I realized if I would just get up at 3 a.m. and go do something, I would get tired within an hour or two, and then I could finish my 3 more hours of sleep later, and then things eventually got back where I was sleeping through the night. So
yeah. I do that too. I'll get up. I usually wake up around between 2 and 3, and then or around 3, and then I'm up for a little while, but usually not more than an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think, like, for me, if I'm not getting enough physical activity throughout the day, I have a really hard time sleeping. And if I don't take magnesium, that makes a big difference for my sleep too. So some other things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a good question from Krish. This is a follow-up question for Dr. Saunders. We talked about edema last week. And so Krish is wondering, during extended international travel, like 12 to 14 hours, will consumption of a half a glass of red wine help avoid occurrence of edema. That is, will wine accelerate the return of venous blood flow from feet to heart? Thanks.
Wow. That's a good question. And I don't know of any research on that. I have read research on that specific point, Krish, that you're talking about on long-term flights, like a flight over 8 hours. 10% of everybody in the airplane gets clots in their legs. And so getting up and walking periodically is a really good idea. But that's a good question about the alcohol, the wine. I don't know if the wine would actually prevent that. I don't know. They've done a lot of research on other things like fish oil and aspirin, and then clopidogrel and some other medications for that. But I'm not aware of any wine studies.
Hello, today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Nervala. Now, Nervala is for people that have diabetic neuropathy, nerve pain, peripheral neuropathy, numbness, tingling, or anything like that related to nerve damage. Now, I named it Nervala because it's like nirvana for your nerves. And the number one ingredient in this is ALA, alpha-lipoic acid. The other ingredient is benfotiamine in this. So Dr. Saunders formulated this to help people to cool down their overheated nerves. And that's really what's going on. Inside your body, there's a lot of inflammation and overheating, and your nerves are just like stressed out to the max. And that's what happens when you've got too much sugar, too much blood sugar, erratic blood sugar. But Nervala helps with all of that. And people experience a lot of relief from Nervala, and we've heard a lot of thousands of people have bought this product, and we've gotten tons of feedback and positive testimonials from people that this works. You can get this today at bartonnutrition.com, and if you use the coupon code webinar25, you'll save an additional 25% off your purchase of Nervala. So I mentioned cooling down your nerves. That's right. What's going on in your nerves is there's just too much energy. And that's what happens when we have too much sugar in our body and we have insulin resistance and different things going on like that with our metabolism. So Nervala and the alpha-lipoic acid, it cools off your overheated nerve cells and all of that energy. And then the benfotiamine that's in there, it helps to run things more efficiently. And your nerves are so important in your body. And if you experience numbness, tingling, intense pain in your nerves and things like that, there's probably something wrong with the function. And I want you to give this a try. It comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it for a month. You can try it for 3 months. You can try it for 6 months. You can try it for 11 and a half months and then send back the empty bottles if you're not completely satisfied, and we'll give you a full refund of your purchase price. That's how confident we are that this is going to help you. So give it a try. Nervala, bartonnutrition.com. Use the coupon code webinar25. All right, let's get back to the webinar.
Good question. Okay. Luann just ordered some healthy gut. Thank you. And I'm excited. Let us know if you notice anything or how it's going, Lance. Our friend Chris Bornman is saying hello. Let's see. I'm going to read through. Okay. Last one here. Michelle said, had a really bad week last week, volunteered with Samaritan Purse in Georgia, was able to eat some of the food and passed up some foods with dairy, some of the leafy salads with dressings, and most of the sweet desserts. That is hard to do, Michelle. So congratulations on doing that. Okay. Question from Coney. Is eating sourdough bread better than regular bread?
Oh, that's a great question. On phase one. Okay. That's a great question.
He didn't say, or Coney didn't say phase one. I'm just saying maybe avoid the bread on phase one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you're in phase one, forget it.
Yeah.
Either one. So let's look at research. In Italy, they did a study on diabetics. No, I'm sorry. Well, they weren't diabetics. They were people that had celiac disease. Celiac disease is allergy to wheat, where you get a reaction in your intestines, and it's so bad you actually lose the lining of your intestines. It gets completely flat. Normally, there's a bunch of what are called villi, and they completely disappear in the intestines. And so it's kind of a serious disease because you stop absorbing nutrients, you get chronic inflammation, leaky gut, you get a lot of issues with celiac. So these people all had celiac, and they took them off all wheat for 6 months until they were completely cleared, and they biopsy their intestines, and they have normal villi in their intestines, and everything's functioning really well. Then they gave half of them regular bread to eat, and the other half were able to eat just sourdough. And after 6 months, they checked them again with the biopsy of their intestines. And the ones they were eating regular bread got their celiac disease back. They lost all their normal villi. But the ones eating sourdough bread did not. They had normal intestines. So the conclusion for the researchers, this was many years ago, the conclusion for the researchers was it must not be the wheat, it must be the yeast, because the yeast breads would do it, but the sourdough bread did not. Okay, now we understand that probably what's happening is because there's bacteria in there that make acids that pre-digest the gluten in there, the gluten molecule, because gluten is normally not water soluble, and it's normally not broken down in the stomach very easily. But with sourdough bread, it's already sort of pre-broken down because sourdough has both yeast and bacteria. It's a combination of microorganisms that are making this sourdough and fermenting it. And because of that fermentation process, the gluten is partially broken down. That's probably why the sourdough is better tolerated in people with celiac disease. The answer is, if you have sensitivity to gluten or gluten, yeah, by all means, sourdough is a better choice. Staying away from gluten entirely is the recommendation, and probably the wisest thing to do.
Okay, I actually have a sourdough starter that I've been meaning to start. So my kids love bread, and so they get it sparingly, but I like sourdough. So, okay, if a person already has diagnosed deep vein thrombosis in a leg, do you recommend either, here we go, guys, wobenzime or serapeptase? Oh, I did pretty good on those. To use before starting a walking regimen. Doses, how long to treat, what else may help?
Okay, wobenzime, serapeptase, those are great. Those are enzymes, and they're peptide enzymes. They break down proteins primarily, which are more general. There's Natto Kinase is another one. It's more specific for clots. It actually does break down clots specifically. If you already have a DVT, a thrombosis in your veins, then it's really important not to allow that to grow. So blood thinners, and if you're not on some kind of prescription blood thinner, then make sure you are on things like taking an aspirin, getting garlic every day, the omega-3, like fish oil. Omega-3 oils are really good for that. And vitamin E. And the vitamin E needs to be in a higher dose, like 1,200 or units a day, instead of the usual 400. So adding on, so if you already have one and you're already being treated, yes, you can do the serapeptidase and the wobenzime. But you can add Natto Kinase even instead of those, or add on Natto Kinase, and then fish oil and vitamin E and even aspirin.
All right. Question from Douglas. I lost weight and glucose is dropping, but is it normal that my hands tingle with pain and feel despair?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So remember, I'm speaking generally. That tingling can be for one of two reasons. One is that you're not getting good circulation, and that is the blood vessels constrict. And then when you don't get good circulation, the nerves are exquisitely sensitive to energy flow, blood flow, oxygen. And so if you're not getting good circulation, then you'll notice that in your hands. Another possibility is that as your blood sugar is coming down, you've lost weight, then your nerves are waking up. So sometimes the nerves are a little bit, not totally numb, but a little bit decreased sensation. They're not functioning. They're not working very well. And as they wake up, then you get more burning, pain, tingling, kinds of sensations in them. So either they're waking up or there's some kind of a circulation problem. And the way I would know it's a circulation problem and not a neuropathy, like a pinched nerve or something, is because it's both hands.
Okay. Coney is wondering if peanuts are bad for you.
Peanuts are awesome. Peanuts have like everything you need in them, but there's always a but, right? Often peanuts are stored for long periods of time, and they build up levels of mold in them, aspergillus mold, and they have aflatoxin in them. So when people react to peanuts, it's often not the peanut itself, because peanuts are very well digested. They have everything. They have oil and protein and carbohydrate and a lot of nutrition. They're really good, but when they're stored, then they get this mold on them that can be sensitizing. People can get pretty sick from it.
Okay. Question from Paul. My blood sugar reading was 153 this morning upon wakening. Rode my stationary bike for 20 minutes, and then 1 hour later, my reading was 127. Would Dr. Saunders explain what happened, and should I exercise before taking my reading in the morning?
Okay. The answer is I can't really explain what happened. I can make guesses, but there are so many factors involved in what makes your blood sugar going one way or the other. For all I know, while you were exercising, your blood sugar could have dropped down to 70 and you release a whole bunch of glucagon, and then your liver starts putting out extra sugar and you get up to 120. So I don't know what happened in between, but the answer to your question is should you exercise first before testing your blood sugar? I don't think so, and here's why. When you wake up, that's what your blood sugar is at that moment, fasting with an empty stomach. If you exercise is great, and it's like getting insulin because it opens up your cells to allow more sugar into the cells. And so of course, you would expect the blood sugar to drop at that point. And so if you just want a better number, sure, exercise, that's fine. But if the 150 gives you more information to say, okay, if my fasting resting blood sugar is 150, that's still on the high side, and I need to bring it down by changing my diet, changing my exercise, changing what I eat, how much I eat, or what I eat, how much I eat, or when.
Okay, we have a question about, am I saying this right? It's Natto Kinase, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Is it available as a supplement, or do we have to eat it? As a food, it's really tough to eat. And how much is a pill? How much food? And do you take it every day?
Yeah, Natto's not one of those. It's an acquired taste. Yeah, it comes in pills. Yeah, Natto Kinase, you can get it in pills. Yeah, it's easy to get.
I'm seeing even some on Amazon that I just did a search for it, and $20 to $30. I mean, I don't know these brands, but I'm just saying roughly. And then how much do you take? Just the instructions on the bottle? Or
go the instruction on the bottle, because it's the units is the way it would come. But anyway,
okay,
just follow the instructions.
Okay, so I like this question from Terry concerning, I think, kind of the 6-10 reset again. What do you do when you were up in the Arctic and there is 6 months of days and 6 months of nights?
You know what? It can mess up your circadian rhythm. And what do? Well, you do the best you can. You have a room darkening blinds, and you go to bed at 10 and you wake up at 6, and you get your whatever 8 hours in, and just do the best you can. All
right. Okay. This is from Joelle. Newly found out I am a type 2 diabetic. Okay. So found out about a month ago. I'm a baker and I get up really early to bake around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. What time am I supposed to take my metformin and eat breakfast?
Okay. Good question. So, Joelle, let me see. Specifically for you, because your situation is unique and you're up, so early, then the best time to do it is still, I don't know what time you would normally eat, but you can take the metformin whenever you eat breakfast. And if you eat breakfast around 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and now you get up and work for a little while for a few hours and then have breakfast. I don't know how you do that. You probably take a break sometime, and you can have breakfast at 6 or 7 or something like that. That would be very good. So I assume your question is, should I get up and have breakfast before I go into work? You actually could do that too, because the empty stomach, the idea, like the 6-10 reset, the optimum time is to have an empty stomach when you go to bed, or around 10 o'clock at night when you release that ghrelin from your stomach that tells your pituitary gland to make human growth hormone. So that is before you get up for work. So after you get up for work, you can either get up and eat, or if you take a break around 6 or 7 in the morning, you can do it then and then take your metformin. Either way would be fine.
Okay. Question from our friend Chris. When on the broth diet, is there any sense in taking supplements or metformin?
No. As a matter of fact, when I put people on broth diets, when they're just having broth has just about every nutrient you need. It has all the electrolytes and everything in it. So you don't need to add anything. And think of that as a cleanse. And think of the supplements that you're taking as food. And so you're going off all that food, including supplements and everything. Now, there are some medications that you shouldn't just stop and start all the time. So, for example, I had somebody on thyroid who wanted to do a cleanse, and she was asking, do I take my thyroid? Yes, you continue taking your thyroid. That's not a supplement, that's treatment. So if it's treatment, you probably do. Now, here's where it gets sticky. And that is, if you're doing a cleanse and you're taking blood pressure medication, your blood pressure is going to drop. And so that may not be a good idea. And then if you're taking diabetes medication, and then your blood sugar might drop, and that might not be good either. So during the cleanse, I advise my patients not to take blood pressure or blood sugar medications, because the effects of going too low are worse than being a little high.
Okay. Susan says, good afternoon. Recently diagnosed with DCIS, which I believe is a breast cancer, and preparing for surgery. What vitamins can I take to promote healing? Okay.
3 things you have to take, like a lot of, to make sure you have really good levels. Because if you have DCIS, that's carcinoma in situ. That means it's contained, and you're going to have surgery, have it removed. And when they do that, you don't know where the cells go else in your body. There's some evidence for that. So the way to handle that is to have a large amount of vitamin D. You've heard, like, we were talking about vitamin D for the COVID-19 to prevent infection. It doesn't prevent you from getting infection. It just takes out the cells that are infected. So you already get the infection, it takes out the cells. Well, it does the same thing for cancer cells. It takes out the cancer cells. That's the way the cellular immunity works. And that's stimulated by vitamin D. The vitamin D binding protein is a macrophage activating factor. That means those macrophages are going to go in and look for, there's a whole row of cells and they're all the same. And that one's different. It's like they're all yellow houses and this one's blue. And so the macrophage goes, that's out of place. Let's take it out. And doesn't know why it's blue, doesn't know that it's a cancer cell or that it's an infected cell with a virus. Doesn't know what the problem is. It's just, there's a problem with that one. Let's take it out. And so that's why vitamin D is essential. So vitamin D, in fact, take about 10,000 units a day and then measure your levels. And if you're not up above 80, between 80 and 100, then take more until you get to between 80 and 100. Because you want that macrophage activating factor to be able to take out any cancer cells that may be around. That's number one. Number two, make sure you have enough zinc. It's not that common in women to have a zinc deficiency, but at least take it once a week. And there's two more. Iodine is very important for this ductal carcinoma. So make sure you get enough iodine. If you take too much iodine, you will pee it all out. So if you get those 50 milligram doses, then you'll just pee everything out that you don't need. But you don't need that much. That's a lot. So if you just took the 10, or they have a 12.5 milligram, that's fine. You can do that. You could even do that once a week, and that's fine. Take it every day for like 5 days and then once a week. And then the third one is selenium. Selenium is a very important part of the glutathione recycling program. There's a glutathione peroxidase enzyme that allows glutathione to be recycled. So glutathione is the primary antioxidant in the body that helps prevent cancers. So those three: selenium, iodine, vitamin D. Start with that.
Is there anyone who should not be taking vitamin D? It just seems like a no-brainer supplement.
Yeah, vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a hormone, and we all need it. We have to have it. If you don't have it, you're going to get osteoporosis. You're going to get infections. I've known several now who are school teachers for young children who said, I was getting sick. Like every time a kid would come in sick, I would get sick. And then they started taking vitamin D, and they're going like, I don't get sick anymore. I'm good. So yeah, I agree. Vitamin D. If you're not getting enough sunshine, I've tested thousands of people, and I've had maybe, I don't know, less than 10 people have normal vitamin D levels who weren't supplementing, because we live north of the 34th parallel or whatever that is. But these people, one of them was going to a tanning booth. One of them had just come back from Hawaii. One of them was a biker. But I even had like a beach volleyball player who never wore sunscreen, whose vitamin D level was like 30, 32, I think it was, which is on barely normal, but not good. So supplementing is a good idea.
Right. And we do have some products for that. We have Synachroma. I don't know if Joe's back there or not, but he has Synachroma sitting there, I'm assuming. And
yeah,
we also have iodine.
Yeah, Susan, if you'll send me your mailing address, just put that in the chat. I've got some I want to send to you. So I actually have like 6 extra bottles of just vitamin D3 that I order on Amazon, which Yeah, I've got way too much. So it's like, all right, I've been looking for somebody to give it to, and sounds like you'd be great. So, and it is in
Awesome.
arsenochroma as well, but this will help you mega dose.
Okay, no crying on this webinar, Leslie. Pull it together. All right, let's see. Ooh, I like this one. Okay, is Ezekiel bread a more healthy choice than regular bread for diabetes?
Okay. If you're specifically talking about diabetes, the bread still has the amount of starch that's made into sugar. Ezekiel bread is better in some ways in that it has more fiber, and that's good. And that the proteins, because the bread is sprouted, it's partially broken down. But it still has the starch in it, and it still has sugar. So when you're on phase 2, because in phase 1, you probably wouldn't use Ezekiel bread, but in phase 2, and when you're starting to add things in, you add an Ezekiel bread and you're checking your blood sugar, or you have one of those really cool monitors that shows you how your blood sugar is going, and you eat some Ezekiel bread and it goes, woo, and then you go, oh, crap, I can't have that much. So you'll know how it affects you. And that's more important. The answer is yes. Ezekiel bread would be preferred over other bread by all means, especially white bread. But as to how it'll affect you specifically in diabetes, that's something that you have to work out.
Okay, Brian is asking for selenium. How many Brazil nuts can one take per day?
Okay, a Brazil nut has roughly 50 to 100 micrograms of selenium in it. If those nuts come from eastern Brazil, in the Amazon forest, in a place that has a lot of selenium in the soil, if those nuts are being grown somewhere, I think it was in Uruguay, that where there wasn't a lot of selenium in the soil, then they won't have any. So, so where the nuts are grown does make a difference, because the plant doesn't need the selenium, and it only has selenium in it because the soil. And it used to be that since that you couldn't grow Brazil nuts anywhere but in the rainforest of Brazil, they all had a lot of selenium in them. So yeah, 50 to 100. So you could you could eat 2, 3, 4 nuts a day. The usual dose of a supplement is about 200 micrograms. So that would be about, for 2 to 4 nuts.
All right. Okay, what can I take to help circulation for the hands going to sleep and numb when they get cold?
Okay. That's a syndrome called Raynaud's, Raynauds. And it is a syndrome of constriction of the blood vessels. And those blood vessels constrict because the autonomic nervous system has is programmed to do it that way. So there are ways out of that. There was actually a study done where they put people with just a bathing suit on in a refrigerator in a supermarket, one of those huge walk-in refrigerators. And they had 2 buckets of warm water, and the warm water is like 110 degrees. So it's not hot, but definitely warm. And so they would take their hand, they would be standing in this cold place, right? And they would put their hands in the warm water, so that the only warmth was the hands. And so that would train the autonomic nervous system to dilate the blood vessels in the hands when there's cold. And it actually worked. So there is a way out of it that doesn't require drugs or surgery or anything, that you can warm it up. But look into other things. Check to see if your thyroid is okay. Because sometimes people will get cold hands and feet when if their body temperature drops, then their hands, all the blood vessels will close off when their thyroid is low, just because of the low temperature. Then the body's trying to conserve what little heat it has. Another way around that is the Wim Hof method, which we've talked about on this program before. And that is, Wim Hof is the Iceman, and he takes ice baths, and he has a breathing technique. So if you do the Wim Hof breathing technique, and then you can do the ice plunge too. I don't know. Yeah, that's actually really good for you too. So yeah, that kind of thing works.
I think Dr. Saunders' daughter won the Wim Hof Cold Bath Challenge at the last Barton Publishing retreat, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, she did.
Who could stay in the cold water the longest?
She beat out Anders.
She beat out Joe.
Or said. Was it said? Yeah.
She beat said, and then I think Anders just plopped in there for 6 minutes, and I thought he was going to die, but he made it out. So
I always do the thing where I'm in the shower and it'll be warm, and then I try to turn it cold, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm meant to do this. I got to work on it.
Wim Hof, he talks about how like you shouldn't respond with that. You should do your best to just let it happen, and I don't know what that is, but
let it be.
Let it be. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Maybe 2 more questions. Let's see. This is a good question from Meg. How long is the average time most people need to spend in phase 1 if A1C is in the 8 to 11 range when starting? Wow.
Okay. 8 to 11 is pretty high. That means that your average blood sugar is over 200. So phase 1 could be as long as, it depends on how well you do it, of course. You could do it on the fast way or the slow way. The more carbs you add, the slower it is. The more food you eat, the slower it is, even if it's protein. So it could be slower, but you would think of that in terms of months. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, somewhere in that range would be the usual course.
Okay. What is better, bone broth or vegetable broth?
Okay. Either one is fine. I've had people do both of them, and bone broth is great. It's got calcium, magnesium, and all the nutrients in it. The vegetable broth they used to call it a potassium broth because it has more potassium, less of the calcium, more of the potassium. So it depends. I've had people on both, and you can do really well on either one.
Okay. And here's a question from Krish. What is intestinal cold and cough, and how do you avoid or treat this nagging condition?
Intestinal cold or cough. An intestinal cold is usually a virus that gets into the intestines, but a cough, intestinal cough, it usually means. I hope I'm understanding what that term is. When somebody has a sensitivity in their intestines, then they start coughing because it causes irritation. They release that are called cytokines, and it causes coughing. And people get even asthma in that kind of thing. Like an allergy to food, for example, can cause an asthma attack if you eat that food. So a cough might be a mild way of doing that. So what it is to avoid the things that you're sensitive to, and avoid things that cause inflammation. Getting enough omega-3 oils. I hope I interpreted that right. I'm just not sure.
Okay. We'll do this final question here. Dell says, I've been suffering with vertigo since last Tuesday and I'm very nauseous. I don't want to eat. My blood sugar reading in the morning is between 135 and 150. What can I do to stay safe?
Well, blood sugar between 135 and 150, that's decent. Safe from what? What's the first part of the question again?
I've been suffering with vertigo since last Tuesday.
Okay.
And I'm very nauseous. I don't want to eat.
Okay. Nausea, vertigo. Okay. So I don't know if you've done Epley's maneuvers. Look it up. Epley's, E-P-L-Y. And it's a way of getting rid of the vertigo and nausea so that you can eat. If it's benign vertigo, positional vertigo, then that's what it is. And as far as what you eat, remember in type 2, when you have insulin resistance, then the problem is too much. So eating less is fine. If you don't feel like eating, then you don't have to eat. You can munch on something like a carrot or something like that and be just fine, and that's all. So it's not essential that you eat anything at all.
Good time to fast. Good time to do a broth.
I have vertigo. I have nausea. I'm fasting.
All right.
All right.
Okay, guys, I think that's it. One thing we didn't mention is if you did find any supplements that you were interested in, or you want to check out bartonwebinar.com, there is a coupon code webinar25 that you can use on the site. Save yourself 25%. And we've been getting lots of stories, as you guys have heard, of people loving our supplements as well. So you can, I'll type that in the chat so you guys can find that. But any parting words from you gentlemen on the screen?
We'll let Dr. Saunders go, and I'll have a few parting words so he can get on with his day. Thanks,
Okay.
Dr. Scott.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right. Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Synachroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Synachroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Synachroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Synachroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Synachroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Synachroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Synachroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. Yeah, so that was a great episode. And let's see. So yeah, if you're watching this, and I wanted to give a shout out to Eric, our web developer, because he redesigned bartonwebinar.com this past week. So check that out. Freshen it up a little bit. And let's see. So yeah, we've got our products listed there at the bottom. So Synachroma, Nervala, Healthy Gut Support. So Healthy Gut Support is something that we talked a little bit about today with leaky gut. So that definitely would be helpful if you have digestive issues. Our Healthy Gut Support has prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes. And so the prebiotics are like fiber, which really helps with digestion. And then probiotics just helps, like it's that culture, the biome in your gut that you want to be healthy and to, and it gets rid of the bad stuff, basically, and replaces it. So highly recommend that. It works great. All sorts of digestive issues, bloating, reflux, indigestion, gas, nausea, different things like that. I give that to, or recommend it to people that have stomach like pain or issues like that. If you take the Healthy Gut Support like 1 hour, like it really goes to work and it works fast. So lots of different uses for that. But we also have on bartonwebinar.com our immune support product, our turmeric. Also, if you get our emails, keep your eyes on those. We do have sales and specials going on where sometimes if you buy 6 bottles of Synachroma, you might get 6 free bottles of Healthy Gut Support, and you might be able to find that in your email inbox. Just, look for our emails and you can find those. And we've created different videos that talk about the benefits of that as well. Our Niagara XL product is a testosterone boosting formula that's been really popular and very effective. We have an iodine product that is really good. We call it neurometabolic. So it's really good for metabolism and, of course, your thyroid, but also for your brain. So, and especially if you're a female, that we've talked about the benefits of that in previous webinars. And then, of course, our Easy Relief Magnesium, which is a spray. That's why we call it Easy Relief. You just spray it on your skin, and it absorbs quickly, and your body absorbs just the amount that you need. So anyways, bartonwebinar.com, you can see all of those products. And we like to have you use that 25% off coupon code, which is webinar 25. And that also helps us to know that you're getting benefit from these webinars, and people are watching and supporting our cause and our work. So let's see, what else was I going to say? So yeah, if you don't have a copy of the printed diabetes solution kit, you can get that workbook on bartonwebinar.com as well. This is the handy guide that you want to just keep with you. It saves you from printing it off on your printer, saves some ink, and it's something that you can take with you to the grocery store. It's got foods that you should be avoiding and also buying and eating. It's the 20 grams of carbohydrates per day program that we talk about. And yeah, it's like the handbook that we talk about, that Dr. Saunders promotes and uses, and has helped thousands of people around the world with reversing type 2. So, and all of the different, issues that come with that as well. So if you're watching us on YouTube, register on that page as well. We'd love to take your questions. We actually got through all of them today. I think we may have missed one from Tina, but Tina, if you watch the replay, we'll have that up in a couple days on YouTube channel, and you can find out what we talked about for how many days to be on the broth cleanse. And maybe, Leslie, do you remember that answer? Did he say how long to be on it?
Well, it does vary. I mean, he said it depends on how much weight you want to lose. So for every pound that you want to lose, that's how many days you can technically go. And if you actually just go to our YouTube channel and type in the search area and look for cleanse, I believe we've talked about it even more in depth on a webinar. If you don't find it, feel free to email me and I can help you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think that is it for today. And Leslie, one last thing. If anyone watching this has a testimonial, any progress that you would want to share with us that we could share with others, we would love to set up a time where we can hop on Zoom privately with you and just kind of hear your story and hear how the program has been helpful for you, because people love to hear other success stories. It's encouraging, motivational. And so if that's you, if you have something to share, Leslie, what's the best way to contact if they're hearing this later on YouTube? Yep. Is there an email address you give out, or?
Yep. Why don't you just, just send it to leslie@bartonpublishing.com. All
right. Yeah. Send us an email and let us know that you're interested in that. And then did we ever confirm we're going to do one right after this call? I think
it won't be today.
Won't be today. Okay. So maybe next time, but all right. Well, good stuff, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being on here and hope that you found this helpful. And Leslie, great hair. I'm jealous, of course. But you can
probably get it too nowadays.
Probably. I don't know if Amanda would like that or not, but
yours looks good the way it is. I like yours like that.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, okay. We'll be back next Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thanks, everybody. God bless. Stay safe and stay healthy and stay alive and thriving, and go enjoy your life, because you that's what it's all about. Go have fun. Our friend Chris Bornman, he's he had his leg amputated last year, but he's out currently on a road trip to buy a new motorcycle. Like, yes. And last week he was shark fishing. Like, come on. Like, there's nothing you can't do. So be encouraged by that. Type 2 diabetes is a temporary setback that can be overcome quickly. So, all right. Excited to hear your stories. And yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.